Dang, I'm about to just give him some more medicine. I already gave him some this morning before church. But I have to give him this medicine till I see his actual doctor. But y'all keep doing all that other stuff like I'm not taking care of my kids. It's giving friends. Right, we good friends, right?
The internet slammed the panic button again. And this time it was over a single cough. One small sound from Chrisean Rock's son Jr. somehow turned into a full-scale online emergency. Like a classified document had just leaked instead of a baby clearing his throat, timelines erupted, experts without licenses appeared overnight, and concern instantly mutated into judgment. Everyone suddenly had a diagnosis, a theory, and a hot take ready to go. And right in the middle of the chaos, Chrisean Rock said two words that lit the fuse. It's crazy. Fans claimed they were just worried, but the comments felt less like care and more like an interrogation room with ring lights. Every clip was slowed down, replayed, and dissected like I had teamed up with TikTok. One side screamed that it was normal, the other side warned disaster, and a third group used the moment to farm engagement like it was harvest season. This wasn't about health anymore. It was about control, attention, and who gets to decide how a mother should explain herself online. The internet wasn't listening to understand. It was listening to react. This wasn't just a story about a cough. It was a story about power. It showed how fast celebrity parenting turns into a public trial where every word becomes evidence and every pause becomes suspicious. Chrisean Rock was never going to deliver a quiet, polished PR statement, and that's exactly what made people uncomfortable when she calmly said it's crazy. The internet filled in the meaning for her, and in that exact moment, a simple explanation turned into the beginning of another viral storm. The moment that cough hit the internet, the reaction was immediate and ruthless. It didn't matter that babies cough all the time, or that real parents hear strange sounds daily and don't immediately call the Pentagon. Because this wasn't just any baby, this was Chrisean Rock's son, and that alone was enough to turn a normal moment into headline material. The internet doesn't observe, it prosecutes. And once the clip started circulating, judgment arrived, faster than empathy ever could. This was never going to stay small, not with Chrisean's name attached to it, within hours. The comments section looked like a courtroom mixed with a medical conference hosted by people who learned anatomy from TikTok threads. Everyone suddenly had credentials, confidence, and a conspiracy theory ready to deploy. Some claimed they were just worried, but their tone sounded more like cross-examination than concern. Others demanded explanations as if Chrisean owed them a personal health report. And hovering above it all were the engagement hunters, quietly smiling while the numbers climbed. The reason this exploded so fast wasn't the cough itself. It was the history attached to it. Chrisean Rock doesn't get the benefit of the doubt the way other celebrity mothers do. Every past controversy, every viral moment, every messy headline quietly waited in the background, ready to resurface. The internet never forgets. It just reloads. And once that cough happened, people didn't see a baby. They saw a storyline they already thought they understood. Chrisean didn't immediately jump online with a carefully worded explanation, and that silence made things worse. Silence on the internet is never neutral. It's interpreted as guilt, avoidance, or proof of whatever theory someone already believes. The longer she waited, the louder the speculation became. Clips were reposted with dramatic captions, reaction. Videos popped up overnight, and suddenly the narrative was being written without her. By the time she spoke, the room was already hostile. When Chrisean finally addressed it, she didn't sound scared or apologetic, and that alone triggered half the internet. She looked straight at the camera and said it was crazy, and that phrase hit people differently depending on what they wanted to hear. Supporters heard reassurance, critics heard dismissal, and trolls heard opportunity. Two words somehow became a Rorschach test for everyone's opinion of her as a mother. And once people choose a meaning, they defend it like it's fact. What made the reaction even more intense was how casual her tone seemed. The internet expects public figures to perform concern in a very specific way, especially when children are involved. Soft voice, detailed explanations, visible anxiety, and maybe a tear or two for good measure. Chrisean didn't give them that performance, and it felt like a violation of an unspoken contract. In their minds, if she wasn't panicking, then something had to be wrong. That's when the commentary shifted from concern to character assassination. People stopped talking about the cough and started talking about Chrisean herself. Old clips resurfaced. Past arguments were dragged into the conversation. And suddenly her entire life became evidence in a case nobody officially opened. The cough became symbolic, a stand-in for every criticism people already had lined up. It was never really about Junior's health anymore. It was about proving a point. The irony was impossible to ignore. The same people claiming to care about the child were amplifying the clip to millions, turning a private moment into viral fuel. If concern was the goal, silence would have helped more than spectacle. But the internet doesn't reward restraint, it rewards outrage, and so the cycle continued. With every new post escalating the tension instead of resolving it, the louder it got, the less helpful it became. Chrisean supporters pushed back hard, calling out what they saw as selective outrage and coded judgment. They pointed out how other celebrity kids cough, cry, or stumble without triggering a public meltdown. They questioned why Chrisean was held to a different standard, why her tone was dissected while others were given grace. The debate quickly expanded beyond one child and into a larger conversation about who gets sympathy online. And as usual, that conversation got messy fast. The critics, however, doubled down. They framed her response as careless, dismissive, even irresponsible, despite having no actual information to support those claims. Every word she said was twisted, slowed down, and replayed with ominous captions. Her facial expressions became proof, her calm demeanor became concerning, and her confidence became arrogance. The internet doesn't just misinterpret, it weaponizes interpretation. What made this situation especially volatile was how familiar it felt. Anyone who's followed Chrisean's public journey recognized the pattern immediately. A small moment turns viral, the narrative spins out of control. And suddenly she's defending herself against an army of strangers. The only difference this time was that a child was involved, which raised the emotional stakes dramatically. Once kids enter the chat, rational thinking usually exits through the backdoor as the debate raged on. Chrisean found herself trapped in a no-win scenario. If she said more, she'd be accused of oversharing or lying. If she said less, she'd be accused of hiding something. The internet doesn't want answers. It wants reactions, and preferably messy ones. Every option available to her came with backlash pre-installed, and yet she stood by her explanation without retreating. That refusal to backpedal only fueled the controversy further. Some interpreted it as strength, others as stubbornness, and others as proof of their worst assumptions. The truth, as usual, sat somewhere in the middle, buried under layers of noise. But truth doesn't trend as well as drama, so the cough kept echoing through timelines. Detached from reality and fully absorbed into internet mythology. By the end of this phase, the situation had transformed completely. What started as a moment of concern had become a referendum on Chrisean Rock's motherhood, personality, and past. The cough was no longer the focus, the reaction was. And as the internet prepared for its next move, one thing was clear: this story was far from over, and the fallout was only beginning. Once the explanation hit the timeline, the internet didn't calm down, it leveled up. What should have been the end of the discussion instantly became the beginning of a larger spectacle. Reaction videos popped up faster than apology notes in a celebrity scandal. Every influencer with a ring light suddenly had thoughts, and none of them were quiet. This wasn't concern evolving into understanding, it was concern mutating into content. Memes arrived almost immediately, because nothing says empathy like turning a serious moment into a punchline. Screenshots of Chrisean's face were paired with dramatic captions, exaggerated fonts, and fake quotes that spread faster than facts ever could. The cough itself became background noise while the internet focused on tone, attitude, and delivery. People weren't reacting to what was said anymore, they were reacting to how it made them feel. And feelings online tend to spiral without supervision, but celebrity commentary didn't help. It poured gasoline on the situation. A few public figures hinted at praying for the baby, which sounds harmless until you realize prayer tweets often come with judgment wrapped in silk. Others vaguely reference patterns without saying names, knowing full well who the audience would assume they meant. This is how modern shade works: subtle enough to deny, loud enough to ignite. Suddenly, the situation felt less like parenting discourse and more like a reality show reunion without commercials. TikTok turned into a full-blown echo chamber, where one dramatic take spawned 10 exaggerated responses. Some creators stitched the clip with alarmist expressions. Others slowed it down like they were uncovering subliminal messages. People began comparing Junior's cough to unrelated viral videos, as if medical science operates on vibes and coincidence. Logic quietly packed its bags and left the conversation. The algorithm doesn't reward accuracy, it rewards intensity. The wildest part was how fast the narrative hardened. Once people decided what they believed, no explanation could move them. Chrisean could have brought in a pediatrician, a choir, and a PowerPoint presentation, and it still wouldn't have mattered. Opinions online aren't built to be flexible. They're built to be defended, and defending them loudly is how people feel powerful behind screens. Meanwhile, supporters weren't staying silent anymore. They started calling out what they saw as performative outrage and selective parenting standards. They pointed out how male celebrities routinely disappear for months without scrutiny, while women get interrogated over a cough. The double standard became impossible to ignore. And that conversation gained traction quickly, but instead of resolving anything, it added another layer of tension. The debate fractured into multiple lanes that never intersected. One group screamed about responsibility, another screamed about privacy, and another screamed simply because screaming gets views. Nobody was actually talking to each other. They were talking past each other. Every argument felt like it was happening in a different universe, and Chrisean, whether she wanted to or not, sat at the center of it all. The tone policing reached absurd levels. People analyzed her facial expressions as if calm automatically meant careless. They questioned why she didn't look stressed enough, emotional enough, scared enough. It was as if motherhood came with a performance requirement that she failed. By staying composed, the internet doesn't trust calm, especially from women it already judges harshly. Pop culture comparisons flooded the discourse, because the internet loves analogies more than nuance. Some compared the situation to infamous celebrity parenting scandals, while others dragged in unrelated tragedies to force emotional reactions. It was like watching people compare a spark to a wildfire just to justify panic. Perspective completely disappeared. Drama doesn't need accuracy, it needs momentum. As the noise grew louder, the original concern got lost entirely. Junior became a symbol instead of a person, a talking point instead of a child. That's the dark side of viral culture, where real lives get flattened into narratives for consumption. The same people claiming to care were feeding the machine that thrives on chaos. And the machine was very well fed. Chrisean's refusal to spiral publicly only irritated critics further. They wanted tears, breakdowns, apologies, and visible distress. They wanted confirmation that their outrage was justified. When she didn't give them that, it felt like defiance. And defiance, especially from someone the internet already scrutinizes, is treated like a crime. This phase of the controversy exposed how little room there is for gray areas online. Everything must be good or bad, right or wrong, calm or careless. Complexity doesn't trend well. The truth often lives in the middle, but the middle doesn't go viral. So extremes took over the conversation entirely. By this point, the cough had transformed into something unrecognizable. It was no longer about health or reassurance. It was about control, visibility, and moral superiority. People weren't asking questions anymore. They were issuing declarations. The story had officially escaped reality and entered internet folklore. And folklore is hard to undo once it takes shape. As the reactions stacked up and the memes multiplied, one thing became obvious. This wasn't ending anytime soon. Too many people were invested. Too many creators were benefiting, and too many opinions were locked in. The story had legs, and the algorithm was ready to run with it. And looming ahead was the part nobody talks about until it's unavoidable: the consequences. By the time the noise settled into a steady roar, the damage was already done. What began as a moment of concern had reshaped Chrisean Rock's public image yet again, layering another controversy onto a reputation that the internet loves to keep under a microscope. People weren't debating facts anymore. They were defending narratives they had emotionally invested in. Once that happens, truth becomes optional and outrage becomes permanent. The cough had faded, but the conversation refused to let it go. Chrisean's name trended alongside words that had nothing to do with health and everything to do with judgment. The internet didn't frame her as a mother responding to concern. It framed her as a character in an ongoing saga. That framing matters because once someone becomes a character, empathy gets replaced by entertainment. Viewers stop asking what's fair and start asking what's next. And nothing feeds it hunger like controversy involving a child. The pressure didn't just exist online, it seeped into real-life consequences. Brand relationships quietly hesitated, not publicly ending anything, but definitely watching the temperature. Public figures don't need official backlash to feel impact, they just need uncertainty. Silence from collaborators can be louder than criticism. And in the entertainment world, uncertainty is currency nobody wants to spend. At the same time, supporters grew more vocal, not because they loved chaos, but because they recognized a familiar pattern. They saw a woman being scrutinized beyond reason, judged not by actions, but by expectations placed on her by strangers. They questioned why calmness was treated as indifference and confidence as guilt. The backlash, they argued, said more about the audience than about Chrisean herself. That counter-narrative gained traction, but not without resistance. Critics accused defenders of making excuses, while defenders accused critics of exploitation. The debate hardened into ideology, not discussion. Once ideology takes over, compromise disappears. Every side believes it's morally superior, and morality online is often just performance with better lighting. The original issue remained unresolved because resolution was never the goal. Behind all of this was Junior, a real child, reduced to a recurring headline. That uncomfortable truth lingered quietly beneath the noise. The internet talks endlessly about protecting children, yet repeatedly uses them as leverage in arguments. Concern becomes currency, and outrage becomes influence. It's a cycle that rarely benefits the child at the center of it. Chrisean's response to the continued backlash was not escalation but steadiness. She didn't issue a dramatic apology tour, nor did she vanish. She stood firm in her explanation without feeding the hysteria. To some, that looked like maturity. To others, it looked like defiance. The internet has never agreed on how women should react when under fire. What became clear was how much power audiences believe they have over public figures. They expect access, explanations, and emotional transparency on demand. When that demand isn't met, the reaction turns hostile. The illusion of closeness breeds entitlement, and entitlement breeds outrage when boundaries appear. This controversy also reignited deeper conversations about motherhood under public surveillance. Celebrity parents are expected to be perfect, but only in ways the audience approves of. Any deviation from the script is treated as a flaw rather than individuality. Chrisean's refusal to perform motherhood theatrically challenged that expectation. And challenges make people uncomfortable. The long-term impact of moments like this is rarely immediate, but it's cumulative. Each controversy adds weight, shaping how future actions are interpreted. The next time something minor happens, it won't be seen as minor. It will be viewed through the lens of everything that came before. That's the cost of living publicly in a culture that never resets. As the discourse slowly cooled, the algorithms moved on, but the impressions remained. Some viewers walked away more supportive, others more critical, and many simply entertained. The internet doesn't require consensus, it requires engagement, and this story delivered plenty of that. Whether anyone learned anything meaningful is another question entirely. What this situation ultimately revealed wasn't a medical mystery or a parenting failure. It revealed how quickly digital spaces turn humanity into spectacle, how fast concern becomes control, how easily a moment gets stripped of context and dressed up as controversy, and how rarely the loudest voices are the most informed. The cough that started it all became irrelevant long before the conversation ended. What lingered was the reaction to it, the way people felt entitled to judge, diagnose, and dictate. Chrisean Rock didn't lose control of the narrative because she never fully had it to begin with. The internet writes its own stories and facts are optional characters. As this chapter closed, one thing remained painfully obvious. This wasn't the end of scrutiny, it was just another bookmark in the world of viral culture. Nothing ever truly resolves, it only pauses. And when the next moment hits, the past comes rushing back like it never left. The internet always remembers, and it rarely forgives. And just like that, the internet moves on. But the smoke never really clears. One cough turned into a courtroom, a timeline turned into a tribunal, and a mother explaining herself became entertainment for millions. This is how fast things flip in the viral era, where context gets buried and outrage gets promoted. Today it's a cough, tomorrow it's something else. And the cycle keeps spinning whether anyone learns a lesson or not. If you think this was wild, trust me, this was just another warm-up round. So let's talk about you for a second, because if you made it this far, you already know how this game works. You see the headlines, you hear the hot takes, and you know there's always more happening behind the noise. This channel is where we peel back the layers, laugh at the madness, and call out the circus for what it really is. No sugarcoating, no fake outrage. Just the chaos served raw. And if that's your kind of content, you already know what to do. Smash that like button like it owes you money and try to dodge you on payday. Drop a comment and tell me what you really think. Not the safe answer, the real one. Do you think the internet went too far? Or is this just the price of living publicly in 2026? Either way, the comment section is wide open and the popcorn is ready. Your opinion fuels the next breakdown, so don't be shy. And before you click away, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because scandals don't take days off and neither do we. This isn't the last time the timeline is going to lose its mind, and when it does, you'll want to be right here. New stories, fresh chaos, and zero filters, all in one place, until the next meltdown drops. Remember one thing, in the world of celebrity drama, it's never really over. It just reloads.